Thank you, Judge. May it please the court and defense counsel. I really don't want to go to jail. I probably am. Who knows better, ladies and gentlemen, than the defendant sitting right here, whether or not he's guilty? That's what we call the consciousness of guilt. That's when people know they did something and they admit to it. This case is about Abigail Vickers, a 1-year-old baby, being sexually abused, sexually molested, sexually battered. It's about Abigail Vickers being done all those things by this defendant and Aaron Vickers. The defense in this case is, it's Aaron Vickers, she did it all by herself. Ladies and gentlemen, that's contrary to every piece of evidence we have in this case. Beginning a trial, you were told that the defendant is cloaked or he has this presumption of innocence. Well, ladies and gentlemen, throughout this trial, we have ripped that presumption of evidence from him. He is no longer innocent. Just like he ripped Abigail's innocence away, it's time you hold him responsible. It's time you hold him responsible. The defense in this case is picking at one little thing at a time and trying to say because that one little thing doesn't match up, that the evidence doesn't exist. Well, that's not how it works. You got all the evidence in this case for a reason. It's called the totality of the circumstances, and your job is to look at all the evidence together to make a determination of what happened. I'm going to go through some of their arguments piece by piece and show how they failed. Let's start with, on February 22nd, the photographs. We had that series of 17 or 18 photographs. If you notice, those photographs are obviously two different time frames because the clothing is different in one. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, Abigail's clothing is different in those. And so is the defendant's clothing, okay? Or Ms. Vickers, I'm sorry. So we know it's two different incidences there. And the defense wants you to say, well, Mr. Dykes had nothing to do with it. The defendant wasn't involved. He had no idea what was going on. Well, the 22nd of February was when those were generated, right? So let's think about this. The 22nd of February, they're on her phone. Guess what? They wind up on his phone within hours after that in his email, right? And then what does he do? He emails it to himself. Why would they mysteriously just show up in his email 3 or 4 hours after that was done on her camera? Why? Why would that be? Is it just magic? Do we have a special system where child pornography just appears on his computer? Or is the common sense reality, they had a conversation, they talked about abusing Abigail, and they did it? What makes sense? And you get to look at not just that photograph in a vacuum. The defense wants you to look at the photograph in a vacuum. That's not how it works. You look at the photograph, and you get to look at their subsequent conduct to determine whether or not that convinces you beyond a reasonable doubt that he participated on the 22nd or with those sexual batteries. But let's say you say, you know what, Mr. Lewis, he's crazy. Mr. Lewis doesn't know what he's talking about. The state is wrong. Then you can crumble up the 22nd as the date that he participated. You have all those subsequent dates. We have the 26th of February. We have the 8th of March. We have the 11th of March. And we have the 26th or 27th again of February, 2 times. I'll take you through it. I'll take you his words, their actions to show that it happened. But you get to look at the chats in combination with the videos, in combination with the photographs to make your decision. Do not believe Mr. Bookhammer said the photographs don't show anything, you can't rely, those are not accurate. Let me get his right words exactly. We know we cannot use the photographs or videos. We don't know that. That's not true, ladies and gentlemen. The videos and photographs are evidence. You get to use them to make your decision, okay? And what we say is not the evidence. The evidence is what the evidence. Let's talk about that other video. The video, the 1 minute, 7 second video we saw, where Ms. Vickers was having oral sex on her child. Did anyone pay careful attention to what she was doing during that video? And it's super important. She looks up 7 to 8 times to look into a camera. She's looking at a device, posing and playing for that device. You even see one time where she takes that camera and she moves it so that it can look better. That, ladies and gentlemen, is evidence that she's doing it in combination with this defendant. How do we know that? Because 2 hours later, they're talking again about committing sexual battery on Abigail. They're talking about doing oral sex to her. 2 hours after that video is generated, okay? And here's the miraculous thing. I guess, once again, those videos, because we don't know how they're sent to the defendant, and it's on his computer, but miraculously they're on his computer again. Miraculously appear on his Dropbox. That's just not the case. What we have here is a situation where we have a sophisticated individual with a computer. You heard from Rosie O'Donnell. He's always used to the computer, knows what he's doing. He deleted some items when he knew the police were on their way, or he thought they were on their way.
That's not an evidence. It's rephrase it.
You heard his statement saying he thought someone was reporting him to the police, ladies and gentlemen. The Skype is then subsequently, or it's deleted. We don't know when. You can use your common sense to say, hey, he knows the police is coming, the Skype is deleted, okay? All of his chats are deleted. All of his chats with Ms. Vickers are deleted. Think to yourself, how can all those chats be deleted and him not have had conversation with her? The only explanation is that he went and deleted those. And we know he deleted some of them because what did the agent tell you? The agent told you that there was remnants of a kick chat between the two of them, but because ones and zeros were missing, I don't even know what a 1 and 0 is, but a 1 and 0 was missing and he couldn't recreate the whole thing, but he knew there was chats back and forth between them. But they were deleted, okay? So we have evidence that he deleted chats with Ms. Vickers. There's no doubt about it, no question, ladies and gentlemen. The evidence in this case is overwhelming. Mr. Bookhammer, for the possession of child pornography, stated that the defendant didn't know that he had these items or didn't know. I don't know. If you sat through the defendant's statement from the stand and you heard it, he admitted to knowing it was child pornography. Furthermore, on his cell phone, if you remember the testimony of Agent Whiteside.
I'm going to object. Those are facts, not evidence. The interview did not have come on.
During the interview, Mr. Dykes told you that when they search his computer, they're going to find child pornography. He admitted to it. That's knowledge, ladies and gentlemen. Furthermore, on his phone, if you remember what Agent Whiteside said, those photographs of Abigail Vickers being sexually abused were found where? In that weird DCIM folder, okay? And that is where, when you take a photograph, it goes directly there, or you have to load it there yourself. And what did the agent say? He said that he would have had to download those specifically to that folder himself. That goes to prove the knowledge that he knows what's going on with those photographs. Those counts 1 through 20, ladies and gentlemen, those are open and closed. Those are an easy decision. There should be no doubt in your mind, okay? Let's talk a little bit more about the conspiracy. The defense claims that there's no conspiracy because of the 22nd and something. First of all, I'll get back to the 22nd in the video. Defense alludes that the defendant is at work during the time that the video is created. That's incorrect. He goes to work at 1 p.m. The video is created at 12:35 p.m. So, and he lives 10 minutes from there. So, any insinuation that he couldn't have been part of that video or partaking because he's at work doesn't hold up against the records from Publix. Moreover, look at the Publix records. Do we know if it's Eastern Standard Time, Central Standard Time, Pacific Time? Do we know it's Mountain Time? Do we even know it's UTC time? We have no evidence to substantiate what time that is and in coordination. We know it's on the phone, but we don't know what's on Publix records. So I submit to you the reliability of those records without more evidence of that, you can't really rely on that. It's not helpful. Furthermore, you heard the testimony of Mr. Brokaw. I keep thinking of Tom Brokaw. Mr. Brokaw, and he told you that people clock in and out, you just have a number, anyone can enter it. If I knew somebody else's number, I can enter it for them. He didn't watch the defendant all the time. He wouldn't know. He didn't work with him. So is it possible? Certainly. It's possible someone else could have logged him in and out. And we'll talk about that for a different day. We'll talk about it right now. Mr. Bookhammer was talking about on the 7th of March that he was at work and he logs out about 6:45 p.m. 7 o'clock, there's a chat that starts, okay? And it goes till 7:45, and he logs back in, I think it's 7:46. Could one of his coworkers have logged him in for 15, 20 minutes till he got back? Certainly, it's possible. Could he also have just used his cell phone to continue the Skype chat? That's very possible too, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it in this case. We know he had Skype on his phone and it was deleted. We don't know when, but we do know that he knew that someone was going to report it to the police. Could he have deleted it right when it was coming around, the police coming? Certainly possible. So that's something for you to consider, that he could have been Skyping when he was in his car on the way back. Who knows? Maybe he put it in his pocket when he got back to Publix and he was done. He just wasn't doing it anymore. Keep in mind that we're not asking you to rely on one thing. We're asking that you look at all the evidence in this case. And that's what's important, okay? It's important that you look at every piece of evidence and put it together. It's like a puzzle. And when you put the puzzle together in this case, what it reveals is this defendant sitting right here and Aaron Vickers holding hands, committing these crimes against Abigail. He may not have been present. If you listen, the defense said, well, he's not present, he wasn't there. We're not saying he was there, ladies and gentlemen. We're saying he was the puppet master, the puppeteer, the person who got everything rolling. Think about it. We talked about principle in jury selection, and we mentioned to you that if someone asked someone to do a robbery, never went there, are they still responsible? And everyone agreed that that person's responsible. We have the defendant here participating in sexual battery on a child by telling Ms. Vickers what to do. Okay? It's clear as day, it's right there. I want to just take you through a couple of those chats because I think that's important to rebut the allegation that there was no conspiracy and no sexual battery and no solicitation. First thing, I want to explain how conspiracy works. A conspiracy is just an agreement to commit a crime. So if I walk up to the street corner and I'm a bad guy and I find another bad guy and we both agree to go buy cocaine together, even if we make one word of agreement, that's a conspiracy to purchase cocaine together, right? We don't have to have multiple agreements in this case. You can say, you know what, I find on the 22nd there wasn't an agreement. As long as you find one agreement between this defendant and Ms. Vickers, just one, then you can hold him responsible and find him guilty of conspiracy. But we're not conceding there's only one, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at all those chats, you look at the forensic evidence, you look at the physical evidence, it's replete with agreement to do these acts to Abigail. The solicitation, the same sort of thing, is him asking her to do these items. It doesn't have to be more than one time asking. We have multiple instances of him asking her to do these acts to Abigail. And make no doubt about it. Don't kid yourself. If the police hadn't stumbled upon this and hadn't got the evidence, they would have committed those acts that they were planning against Abigail.
Objection, Your Honor. That's pure speculation on behalf of the prosecutor.
Judge, he's asking to do these and they're conspiring to do them. We certainly can argue that.
All right, but don't speculate on what would happen if there were different circumstances.
They were planning to commit sexual battery on Abigail. The police got there. Maybe before it happened, maybe not before it happened. But what we know from his words is he wanted to have sex with a 1-year-old baby. he wanted to pump her ass. He wanted to deep throat her. That means he wanted to stick his penis down a 1-year-old baby's mouth. Those aren't my words, that's him. He wanted to get baby toys, baby dildos to use on a baby. And then he wants to get a dog to have sex with a 1-year-old baby. If that's not conspiring to have sexual battery, I don't know what is, ladies and gentlemen. Those are his words, that's what he said. And we have some corroboration. If you remember in his statement to the police, he's talking about bestiality. He actually has some some fixation on that when they talk to him. Let's go through the chats, and I'm going to outline what clearly goes against what the defense is arguing. What I want you to keep in mind is this kick chat from 2/26/15, he's actually at work. And if you read the chat, he says, I'm at work. So any assertion that he can't do these chats at work, it doesn't fly. It's false. But what's really important about this one is, what does he say to her? He says, have you been doing anything to her since we stopped talking? And then Ms. Vickers' response is, no, I've been waiting for you. So we know before 2/26 that actions were happening and they were doing things to Abigail. We have our video chat. It's 2:27. It's really 2:26 because of the UTC time. And Aaron Vickers goes, do you want me to start? He says, yeah. She says, let me get her undressed. Her, referring to Abigail. Rub it and finger it. That's what he says to her. He says, rub it and finger it, ladies and gentlemen. The rubbing portion, when you don't put your finger inside of the vagina, that rubbing itself is lewd and lascivious molestation. The moment the finger penetrates the vagina, that is sexual battery, okay? And then she goes, I'll finger her ass. And then he says, eat. And then put her hand in your pussy. That's what he says, okay? So her hand touching Ms. Vickers' pussy is lewd and lascivious molestation, okay? We've charged a wide range. You have to find unanimously just one of them existed, ladies and gentlemen. And then she says to him, we know this is going on because she says, did I do good? During this chat, there's a video chat going on at the exact same time while they're talking. What does this show, ladies and gentlemen? And then he goes, yeah, would you fuck Izzy with me? And why is this important? You might ask, why did we bring in Rosie O'Donnell? The biggest portion of that was to show you that he had a daughter named Isabel, and they called her Izzy. He's asking Miss Vickers if she would do that with him. And why is that important? Because it goes to show that these chats are actually between the two of them. It goes to show his identity. So any assertion that he's not doing it. More importantly, what's really interesting, as the agent testified, the IP address the video chat is bouncing off of is going to Mr. Dykes' house. Mr. Dykes' house, okay? What does this show, ladies and gentlemen? The oral sex equals sexual battery. The fingering, rubbing, and hand in the pussy is lewd and lascivious molestation. That's on just one date, 2/27. You go to 2/27 again, they start chatting a couple hours later. The defendant says, just eat. And he goes, she seems to like it. We know there's a video chat going on at the same time, so we know he's watching. And then he says, is she orgasm? He's so into it, he wants to know if a baby's orgasming. And then he says, rub and lick. The licking, sexual battery. The rubbing, lewd and lascivious molestation. And then what does he do? He's watching this and he goes, okay, I come. Ladies and gentlemen, it couldn't be clearer than day what's going on here. What does this show? The oral sex is sexual battery. The rubbing is lewd molestation, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, all of this stuff also establishes the conspiracy to commit sexual battery and the solicitation. Then we have a chat on 3/8. This is the one where he's at Publix, we don't know, or the defense claims he's at Publix. We don't really have any information that shows him there beside a record that we don't have a timestamp to know what time that runs on. And what does he say? Sex Abby. He's not saying sex Vickers, Abby, the little girl. And then she says, eat out and play. And he says, I don't care. That's what IDC means. I don't care, right? And it means try putting her foot in your pussy, okay? That's lewd and lascivious molestation again. And then she goes, what now? Finger or lick? And he says, you pick. And he's watching. Remember, the video's going on at the same time, bouncing off the IP address at his house, right? And he says, eat. really chow down. The moment her mouth makes, that is sexual battery, ladies and gentlemen. The oral sex, sexual battery. Foot in the private part is lewd molestation. Then we have 311. Vickers says, let me get Abby. Another video that corresponds with this. And he goes, how are you gagging her? Put something in her mouth where she can't get it out. They are so interested in sexual battery on a child that they're going to gag and tie up a little baby so they can do this stuff to her. He goes, make sure she's not loud. Gag her. Tie her. And then Vickers goes, eat her? And he says, I can't see. We know he's watching on the video. It must be a bad angle because he's telling her I can't see. And he wants to get a better view. And then what does he say? Finger, ass, and pussy at the same time. And then he says, put it in. Right? Put it in. And she says, what? The pinky? And he says, pinky and pussy. And she goes, she's trying to fight me. And he goes, is she gagged? Still seeing if she's gagged. This, ladies and gentlemen, the finger in the ass in the private part equals sexual battery. Okay? But the conversation goes on. It gets even worse. She doesn't mean, still doesn't mean you're going to get your whole pinky in here. They're talking about being able to force a pinky into a child. And he's watching on video. And then she goes, I'll try, almost had it in. And he said, all of it? And she says, yeah, almost all of it. So we know there's penetration in her vagina by Ms. Vickers because of what he's asking to do. That, ladies and gentlemen, is capital sexual battery. No doubt, no question. She goes, to the knuckle? He goes, to the knuckle. He's so interested, to the knuckle. And she says, yeah. And he goes, where's my sex vid? Finger her. We know he's watching. We know he wants the videos. It goes all the way back to the video from the 22nd and the 26th. You look at it in all combination, and there's no doubt what's going on here. And then Ms. Vickers says, she'll fuss. He says, cover her mouth. I'm getting pissed. All right? He's getting mad that he can't get his sex videos, right? And then Ms. Vickers says she doesn't like the fingering. We know the lewd and lascivious molestation's occurring right there. And then, what does he say? I'm going to when we fuck, right? He's talking about when he and her are going to do this to Abby. Ladies and gentlemen, the fingering in her, that's sexual battery. The fingering is lewd molestation. Kick chats. These are the chats. They're talking back and forth. She will scream and get us in trouble. He says, that is why we need to gag and tie her again. His words, not mine, ladies and gentlemen. And then what does he do? He's going to pump her ass up when he gets the chance to have that little baby. And deep throat her. I'm going to shove her whole arm up you. He's talking about putting a baby's arm in her mother's vagina. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Is that not conspiracy and solicitation at its best? Can I still do you, girls? He's asking. And then she says, when? And then he says, we need to find a place. I want Abby to take all of my cock. This is what he says about a 1-year-old baby. Okay? Is that not conspiracy and solicitation at the best? That is the clear example of it, ladies and gentlemen. And then he goes, when I get it all the way in, I want you to lick and finger her vag. This is his words, what he's saying. That is sexual battery again, ladies and gentlemen. We should get baby toys. Have to get small dildos. I want to get a baby boy. He's so interested in this sexual fixation on Abigail that he wants to get a baby boy to have sex with another baby. That, ladies and gentlemen, is sexual battery, conspiracy to commit sexual battery, and solicitation. I'm going to get a dog to fuck her. Okay, Ms. Vickers agrees. There's our agreement. And then he says, it'll probably have to be my dog. I'll have to hold his dick for him. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, this case, the evidence is overwhelming. This case, there's no question, there's no doubt, this case is beyond all doubt, ladies and gentlemen. We're held to reasonable doubt. You have beyond all doubt, I would submit in this case. I'm going to ask you to go back there. I'm going to ask you to find him guilty of the charges against him. The 20 counts of possession of child pornography, the capital sexual battery as a principle, the lewd and lascivious molestation as a principle, the conspiracy to commit capital sexual battery, and the solicitation. I know this isn't easy to watch and look at all this stuff, but you have to make a decision based on the evidence, and I submit to you, the evidence is there, and he's guilty. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.